The Journey of the Moonlit Sparrow. In a quiet corner of the world, where hills rolled like soft waves and the sky was always gentle, lived a tiny sparrow named Luma. Her feathers shimmered like moonlight, soft and silver, glowing faintly under the stars. Luma was not like other birds. She loved the night, when the world grew still, and every sound was a whisper. This is the story of Luma's journey through a peaceful land, a tale to carry you into sleep. The Quiet Village. Luma lived in a small village nestled between two hills. The houses were made of smooth stone, their roofs covered in moss that glowed faintly green in the dark. At night, the village was silent, except for the soft hum of crickets and the rustle of leaves in the breeze. Luma's nest was in an old oak tree, its branches wide and strong, cradling her like a soft bed. The oak tree had stood for hundreds of years, its bark etched with patterns that looked like tiny stars. Luma often traced these patterns with her beak, feeling the tree's quiet strength. Every night, when the moon rose, Luma woke up. She stretched her tiny wings and looked at the sky. The stars twinkled like scattered pearls, and the moon was a bright, round lantern. Luma felt a pull in her heart, a quiet wish to explore beyond the village. She wasn't restless, she loved her home, but something in the moonlight called to her, like a song only she could hear. She hopped to the edge of her branch, her tiny claws gripping the rough bark, and looked down at the village below. The windows of the houses glowed with warm light, like fireflies caught in glass. The air smelled of fresh earth and pine, a scent that always made Luma feel safe. One night, the moon was fuller than usual, its light spilling over the hills like milk. Luma felt the pull stronger than ever. She decided it was time. She spread her wings and flew, her feathers catching the moonlight, making her glow like a tiny star. The air was cool and sweet, smelling of grass and wildflowers. She flew low, skimming over the village, where lanterns in windows flickered like sleepy eyes. She passed over a small garden where flowers slept, their petals closed tight. She saw a cat curled up on a windowsill, its fur silver in the moonlight, and a dog dreaming by a doorstep, its tail twitching softly. Luma flew higher, the village shrinking below her, until it looked like a cluster of glowing stones. The hills around her were dark, their shapes soft and round, like sleeping giants. She felt the breeze lift her wings, carrying her forward, and she knew this night would be special. She chirped softly to herself, a little song of joy, and let the moonlight lead her on. The sky above was a deep blue, dotted with stars that seemed to wink at her, and the air felt alive with the quiet magic of the night. The Silver River. Luma followed a path of moonlight that led to a river. The water was clear, sparkling with reflections of the stars. It moved slowly, like it was in no hurry, its surface smooth as glass. Tiny fish swam in lazy circles, their scales flashing silver. Luma landed on a flat stone by the river's edge and watched the water flow. The sound was soft, like a lullaby, a gentle gurgle that seemed to say, "Rest, rest, all is well." The stone beneath her was smooth, warmed by the day's sun, and Luma felt its warmth seep into her tiny feet. A frog sat on a nearby lily pad, its eyes like shiny black beads. "Hello, Luma," it croaked, its voice low and calm. "Where are you going tonight?" Luma tilted her head. "I don't know," she chirped. "The moonlight is leading me." The frog nodded, as if he understood. "Follow the river," he said. "It knows the way." Then he closed his eyes and began to hum, a deep, soothing sound that blended with the water's song. Luma listened for a while, letting the frog's hum wash over her. She watched the lily pad bob gently on the water, its edges curling like a soft green blanket. Luma hopped along the riverbank, her tiny feet pattering on the cool stones. Fireflies danced around her, their lights blinking slowly, like stars that had come down to play. The river curved through the hills, and Luma followed, her wings fluttering now and then. She passed a patch of tall reeds, their tips swaying in the breeze, and saw a family of ducks sleeping among them, their heads tucked under their wings. She flew over a small waterfall, where the water fell in a gentle cascade, sparkling like liquid starlight. The mist from the waterfall touched her feathers, cool and refreshing, and she shook them gently, feeling the droplets scatter like tiny jewels. The river widened into a shallow pool, where the water was so clear Luma could see the pebbles at the bottom, each one smooth and round, glowing faintly with the moonlight. She landed on the edge of the pool and dipped her beak into the water, taking a small sip. It tasted clean and sweet, like the air after rain. She looked at her reflection in the water, her silver feathers glowing softly, and felt a quiet happiness. The world felt soft and safe, wrapped in the glow of the moon. She stayed by the pool for a while, watching the fish swim in slow circles, their movements calm and steady, like a dance with the water. The meadow of glowflowers. The river led Luma to a wide meadow filled with flowers that glowed like little moons. They were called glowflowers, their petals soft and white, each one holding a tiny spark of light. The meadow was quiet, except for the faint hum of the flowers, a sound so gentle it felt like a hug. Luma landed among them, her feathers blending with their glow. She felt warm, as if the flowers were sharing their light with her. The grass beneath her was soft, like a velvet carpet, and she hopped from flower to flower, feeling their petals brush against her wings. A rabbit poked its head out from behind a glowflower, its ears soft and floppy. "Good evening, Luma," it said, its voice slow and kind. "This is a good place to rest." Luma chirped softly. "It's beautiful," she said. The rabbit nodded. "The glowflowers sing of peace," it said. "Lie down, and you'll hear it." Luma tucked her wings and nestled among the flowers. Their hum wrapped around her, like a blanket made of light. She closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the meadow's calm sink into her feathers. The hum seemed to tell a story, one of quiet nights and gentle dreams, where nothing ever hurried. Luma stayed for a while, listening to the glowflowers. She watched as a butterfly, its wings dusted with moonlight, landed on a nearby flower. The butterfly folded its wings and seemed to sleep, its colors fading into the glow. Luma felt the meadow's peace settle into her heart, but the moonlight called again, soft and steady. She thanked the rabbit and flew on, her wings carrying her over the meadow. The glowflowers seemed to wave goodbye, their lights flickering in a gentle rhythm. She flew higher, looking down at the meadow, which stretched like a glowing sea under the twilight sky. As she left the meadow, Luma noticed a small path winding through the grass, lined with tiny stones that shimmered like pearls. She followed the path from the air, curious about where it led. The path took her to a clearing where the glowflowers grew even brighter, their light pulsing like a heartbeat. In the center of the clearing stood a single tree, its branches draped with vines that glowed like the flowers. Luma landed on a branch and felt the tree hum, its vibrations soft and comforting. She stayed there for a moment, letting the tree's song mix with the glowflowers' hum, feeling as if the whole meadow was singing just for her. The Forest of Whispers. The river bent toward a forest, where trees stood tall and still, their leaves silver in the moonlight. This was the Forest of Whispers, a place where every tree seemed to breathe softly, their branches swaying like a slow dance. Luma flew between the trees, her wings brushing the air. The leaves rustled, not with words, but with feelings, calm, peace, rest. It was as if the forest was singing a song without sound. The air smelled of pine and earth, a scent that made Luma feel grounded and safe. An owl perched on a low branch, its feathers soft as clouds. "Luma," it hooted gently, "you're far from home." Luma landed beside it, her tiny claws gripping the bark. "The moonlight brought me here," she said. The owl's eyes glowed like amber. "The moonlight knows the way," it said. "Listen to the trees. They'll guide you." Luma tilted her head and listened. The whispers of the trees were like a warm breeze, wrapping around her, telling her she was safe. She stayed with the owl for a while, watching as it preened its feathers, each one catching the moonlight like a tiny mirror. Luma flew deeper into the forest, where the trees grew closer, their branches forming a canopy that let moonlight trickle through in soft patches. Fireflies drifted here too, their lights slow and steady, like breaths. She passed a clearing where a deer stood, its antlers catching the light, and watched as it nibbled on leaves, its movements slow and graceful. She flew over a small pond, its surface still as glass, where the moon's reflection glowed like a perfect circle. Tiny frogs hopped along the edge, their croaks blending with the whispers of the trees. Luma found a tree with a hollow in its trunk, just big enough for her to rest. She tucked herself inside, feeling the wood's warmth around her. The hollow smelled of moss and sap, and Luma felt as if the tree was holding her close. She listened to the forest's whispers, which seemed to tell stories of the night, of stars that fell to earth, of winds that carried dreams, of a world where everything was at peace. Luma felt her wings grow heavy, not from tiredness, but from the calm of the forest. She closed her eyes, letting the whispers lull her into a light doze. But the moonlight tugged at her again, gentle but sure. Luma chirped a soft thank you to the tree and flew on, her wings carrying her through the forest. She passed a patch of mushrooms, their caps glowing faintly, and saw a hedgehog curling up beneath them, its spines catching the light. She flew over a fallen log, where moss grew thick and soft, and saw a family of mice sleeping in its crevices, their tiny bodies rising and falling with each breath. The forest seemed endless, each tree a guardian of peace, and Luma felt its calm deep in her feathers. The Hill of Stars. After a time, Luma felt the moonlight tug at her again. She spread her wings and flew out of the forest, climbing higher until she reached a hill. This was the Hill of Stars, a place where the grass sparkled as if dusted with stardust. From here, the sky felt close, the stars so bright they seemed to hum. Luma landed on the hill and looked up. The moon was a gentle giant, its light washing over her like a warm wave. The grass beneath her was soft, like a bed of clouds, and she hopped gently, feeling the stardust tickle her feet. A fox appeared, its fur red as embers, its eyes soft and kind. "Luma," it said, its voice like a whisper of wind, "you've come far." Luma chirped. "The moonlight led me," she said. The fox smiled. "This hill is where dreams begin," it said. "Lie here, and the stars will sing to you." Luma nestled into the grass, feeling the stardust tickle her feathers. The stars above began to hum, a melody so soft it felt like a dream itself. The hum told a story of the night, of how the stars and moon worked together to cradle the world in peace. Each star was a wish, each ray of moonlight a promise of rest. Luma stayed on the hill for a long time, listening to the stars. She watched as a shooting star streaked across the sky, its light trailing like a ribbon. She made a tiny wish, not for anything big, but for the night to go on forever. The fox curled up nearby, its tail wrapping around itself, and hummed along with the stars. Luma felt her eyes grow heavy, her breath slow. The hill held her gently, the grass soft as a pillow. She looked up at the sky one last time, counting the stars, each one a tiny light in the vast night. The hills seemed to glow brighter, as if the stardust was alive. Luma noticed tiny flowers growing among the grass, their petals small and white, glowing like the stars above. She hopped to one and touched it with her beak, feeling its softness. The flower seemed to hum too, its song blending with the stars, creating a harmony that wrapped around Luma like a blanket. She felt completely at peace, as if the hill, the stars, and the moonlight were all singing her to sleep. The Crystal Cave. The moonlight tugged at Luma once more, and she knew her journey wasn't over. She spread her wings and flew down the other side of the hill, following a faint glow that led her to a cave. The entrance was framed with vines, their leaves shimmering with dew, and the air smelled of wet stone and moss. Luma flew inside, her wings brushing the cool walls. This was the Crystal Cave, a place where the walls sparkled with tiny crystals, each one catching the moonlight and sending it dancing across the cave. The cave was quiet, except for the soft drip of water from the ceiling, each drop falling into a small pool in the center. The pool glowed with the light of the crystals, its surface rippling gently. Luma landed on the edge of the pool and looked at the crystals. They were all shapes and sizes, some as small as her beak, others as big as her wing. Each one seemed to hold a tiny light, like a star trapped in stone. The air in the cave was cool, but not cold, and Luma felt a deep calm settle over her. A bat hung from the ceiling, its wings folded around its body. "Welcome, Luma," it squeaked, its voice soft and high. "This cave holds the light of the moon." Luma chirped. "It's beautiful," she said. The bat nodded. "The crystals sing," it said. "Listen." Luma tilted her head and heard it, a faint, tinkling song, like the sound of glass chimes in the wind. The song was soothing, each note clear and pure, and Luma felt it wrap around her like a gentle wave. She stayed in the cave for a while, hopping from crystal to crystal, feeling their cool surfaces under her feet. She watched as the light from the pool reflected on the walls, creating patterns that shifted and danced. She saw her own reflection in the pool, her silver feathers glowing brighter than ever, and felt a quiet pride in her journey. The bat joined her, hanging upside down near the pool, and they listened to the crystals together, their song filling the cave with peace. Luma felt as if the cave was a hidden heart of the night, a place where the moonlight came to rest. The Whispering Bridge. Luma left the cave, the moonlight guiding her back to the river. She followed it until she came to a bridge made of stone, its surface covered in moss that glowed faintly. This was the Whispering Bridge, a place where the wind seemed to speak as it passed over the stones. Luma landed on the bridge and felt the moss under her feet, soft and cool. The wind blew gently, carrying whispers that sounded like voices from a dream. They spoke of rest, of peace, of a world where everything was still. A turtle sat on the edge of the bridge, its shell shining in the moonlight. "Hello, Luma," it said, its voice slow and deep. "You've traveled far." Luma chirped. "The moonlight brought me," she said. The turtle nodded. "This bridge knows many stories," it said. "Listen to the whispers." Luma tilted her head and listened. The whispers told of the river's journey, of how it had carved its path through the hills, of the fish that swam in its depths, of the stars that watched over it every night. Luma stayed on the bridge, feeling the wind's gentle touch. She watched as the river flowed beneath, its water sparkling with the moonlight. She saw a fish jump, its body arcing through the air before splashing back into the water, sending ripples across the surface. The turtle began to hum, its voice deep and steady, blending with the whispers of the bridge. Luma felt her wings relax, her body sinking into the moss. The bridge seemed to hold her, its whispers wrapping around her like a soft blanket. She stayed there for a long time, listening to the whispers and the turtle's hum. She watched as the moon moved across the sky, its light shifting over the bridge, casting long shadows that danced on the water. She felt completely at peace, as if the bridge, the river, and the moonlight were all part of the same gentle song. The turtle closed its eyes, its hum growing softer, and Luma felt her own eyes grow heavy, the whispers lulling her into a gentle calm. The glimmering lake. The moonlight tugged at Luma again, and she flew on, following the river until it opened into a wide, glimmering lake. The lake's surface was like a mirror, reflecting the moon and stars so perfectly that it looked like a piece of the sky had fallen to earth. Tiny waves lapped at the shore, their sound a soft whisper, and the air smelled of water and wildflowers. Luma landed on the sandy shore, her tiny feet leaving prints in the soft earth. The sand was cool, and she hopped closer to the water, watching as the reflections danced with each ripple. A heron stood at the edge of the lake, its long legs still, its beak pointed toward the water. "Hello, Luma," it said, its voice smooth and calm. "This is the glimmering lake. It holds the dreams of the night." Luma chirped. "It's so pretty," she said. The heron nodded. "Look into the water," it said. "You'll see the stars' secrets." Luma leaned over the edge of the lake and looked into the water. She saw the stars, but also shapes, soft, swirling patterns that seemed to tell stories of the night, of dreams that floated like clouds, of peace that stretched forever. Luma stayed by the lake, watching the patterns in the water. She saw a fish swim close to the surface, its scales catching the moonlight, and watched as it darted away, leaving a trail of tiny bubbles. She hopped along the shore, finding a patch of soft grass to rest on. The grass was dotted with tiny flowers, their petals closed for the night, and Luma nestled among them, feeling their softness against her feathers. The heron began to hum, its voice low and gentle, blending with the sound of the waves. Luma felt the lake's calm wrap around her, like a warm hug from the night. She stayed there for a long time, listening to the lake's whispers and the heron's hum. She watched as the moon's reflection grew brighter, its light spreading across the water like a glowing path. She felt as if she could fly across that path, straight to the moon itself, but she was too content to move. The lake seemed to hold her gently, its beauty a quiet song that filled her heart. Luma closed her eyes for a moment, letting the sound of the waves and the heron's hum carry her deeper into peace. The field of sleeping daisies. The moonlight called to Luma once more, and she spread her wings, flying over the lake and following a faint glow in the distance. She came to a field filled with daisies, their petals closed tight as if they were sleeping. This was the field of sleeping daisies, a place where the air was filled with the scent of flowers and the soft hum of the earth. Luma landed among the daisies, her tiny feet brushing against their petals. The daisies were white and yellow, their centers glowing faintly, like tiny moons scattered across the field. A mouse peeked out from between the daisies, its eyes small and bright. "Hello, Luma," it squeaked, its voice high and soft. "This field is a place of rest." Luma chirped. "The daisies are sleeping," she said. The mouse nodded. "They dream of the sun," it said. "Lie here, and you'll feel their dreams." Luma tucked her wings and nestled among the daisies, feeling their softness around her. The hum of the earth was gentle, like a heartbeat, and Luma felt it pulse through her feathers. She stayed in the field, listening to the earth's hum. She watched as the mouse scampered to a nearby daisy, nibbling on a petal before curling up to sleep. Luma felt the daisy's dreams, soft and warm, like memories of sunny days and gentle breezes. The air was filled with the scent of flowers, a smell that made Luma feel calm and safe. She hopped from daisy to daisy, feeling their petals brush against her, each one a tiny pillow of softness. The field seemed to stretch forever, a sea of sleeping flowers under the moonlight. Luma stayed there for a long time, feeling the daisy's dreams wrap around her. She watched as the moonlight touched the flowers, their petals glowing brighter with each ray. She felt as if the field was a cradle, rocking her gently, its hum a lullaby that filled her heart. The mouse began to snore softly, a tiny sound that blended with the earth's hum, and Luma felt her own eyes grow heavy, the daisy's dreams carrying her deeper into peace. The starlit orchard. The moonlight tugged at Luma again, and she flew on, following a faint scent of fruit in the air. She came to an orchard, where trees grew in neat rows, their branches heavy with glowing fruit. This was the starlit orchard, a place where the fruit shone like tiny stars, casting a soft light over the ground. Luma landed on a branch, her tiny claws gripping the bark, and looked at the fruit. They were round and golden, each one glowing with a warm light, and the air was filled with their sweet scent. A squirrel sat on a nearby branch, holding a glowing fruit in its paws. "Hello, Luma," it chattered, its voice quick but kind. "These are star fruits. They hold the light of the stars." Luma chirped. "They're so pretty," she said. The squirrel nodded. "Taste one," it said. "It will fill you with peace." Luma pecked at a fruit, its juice sweet and warm, like honey mixed with moonlight. She felt a gentle warmth spread through her, as if the star fruit had given her a piece of the star's calm. Luma stayed in the orchard, hopping from tree to tree, tasting the star fruits. She watched as the squirrel scampered along the branches, gathering fruit and nibbling on them, its tail flicking happily. The orchard was quiet, except for the soft rustle of leaves and the faint hum of the star fruits, a sound that felt like a gentle song. Luma felt the orchard's peace settle into her feathers, each fruit a tiny gift of light and warmth. She flew to the top of a tree, looking out over the orchard, which glowed like a sea of stars under the moonlight. She stayed there for a long time, feeling the starfruit's light fill her heart. She watched as the moonlight touched the trees, their branches glowing brighter with each ray. She felt as if the orchard was a haven, a place where the stars came to rest, its hum a melody that wrapped around her. The squirrel curled up in a crook of the tree, its eyes closing as it hummed softly, and Luma felt her own wings relax, the starfruit's light carrying her deeper into peace. The moonlit waterfall. The moonlight called to Luma once more, and she flew on, following the sound of falling water. She came to a waterfall, its water glowing like liquid moonlight as it fell into a pool below. This was the moonlit waterfall, a place where the air was filled with mist and the sound of the water was a gentle song. Luma landed on a rock near the pool, her tiny feet gripping the smooth surface. The mist from the waterfall touched her feathers, cool and refreshing, and she shook them gently, feeling the droplets scatter like tiny jewels. A dragonfly hovered near the waterfall, its wings shimmering in the moonlight. "Hello, Luma," it buzzed, its voice soft and quick. "This waterfall is a place of calm." Luma chirped. "The water glows," she said. The dragonfly nodded. "It carries the moonlight," it said. "Listen to its song." Luma tilted her head and listened. The sound of the waterfall was gentle, like a lullaby, each drop a note in a melody that filled the air. Luma felt the song wrap around her, like a warm breeze on a cool night. She stayed by the waterfall, watching the water fall in a steady stream, its glow lighting up the pool below. She saw tiny fish swimming in the pool, their scales catching the light, and watched as they darted in and out of the shadows. She hopped closer to the waterfall, feeling the mist on her feathers, and dipped her beak into the pool, tasting the water. It was cool and sweet, like the river, but with a hint of something magical, as if the moonlight had mixed with the water. The dragonfly landed beside her, its wings folding as it rested, and they listened to the waterfall's song together. Luma stayed there for a long time, feeling the waterfall's calm fill her heart. She watched as the moonlight danced on the water, creating patterns that shifted and swirled. She felt as if the waterfall was a gateway, a place where the night's magic came to life, its song a melody that carried her deeper into peace. The dragonfly began to hum, its voice blending with the sound of the water, and Luma felt her eyes grow heavy, the waterfall's song lulling her into a gentle calm. The Valley of Echoes. The moonlight tugged at Luma again, and she flew on, following a faint echo in the air. She came to a valley surrounded by tall cliffs, their surfaces smooth and glowing in the moonlight. This was the Valley of Echoes, a place where every sound came back as a soft whisper. Luma landed on a ledge, her tiny claws gripping the stone, and chirped softly. Her chirp echoed back, gentle and clear, like a friend answering her call. The air was cool, and the valley was filled with the scent of wildflowers growing along the cliffs. A hawk perched on a higher ledge, its feathers dark against the glowing stone. "Hello, Luma," it called, its voice strong but kind. "This valley echoes the night's peace." Luma chirped. "It's so quiet," she said. The hawk nodded. "Speak, and the valley will answer," it said. Luma chirped again, a little song of joy, and the valley echoed it back, each note softer and sweeter than the last. The echoes seemed to wrap around her, like a blanket of sound, and Luma felt a deep calm settle into her feathers. She stayed in the valley, chirping and listening to the echoes. She watched as the hawk soared above, its wings cutting through the air, and listened as its call echoed through the valley, a deep, resonant sound that blended with her own chirps. She hopped along the ledge, finding a patch of soft moss to rest on, and nestled into it, feeling the stone's coolness beneath her. The valley's echoes were gentle, each one a reminder of the night's peace, and Luma felt as if the cliffs were singing to her, their song a lullaby that filled the air. Luma stayed there for a long time, feeling the valley's calm wrap around her. She watched as the moonlight touched the cliffs, their surfaces glowing brighter with each ray. She felt as if the valley was a cradle, holding her gently, its echoes a melody that carried her deeper into peace. The hawk landed beside her, its eyes closing as it rested, and Luma felt her own wings relax, the valley's echoes lulling her into a gentle calm. The return home. Luma didn't know how long she stayed in the Valley of Echoes, but the moonlight never faded. It carried her gently, like a river, back through the waterfall, the orchard, the field, the lake, the bridge, the cave, the hill, the forest, the meadow, along the river, until she was above her village again. The houses glowed faintly, the moss on their roofs shimmering. Luma landed in her oak tree, her nest soft and warm. The moonlight tucked her in, like a blanket, and the stars above winked one last time. The oak tree's branches swayed gently, as if rocking her to sleep, and Luma felt its familiar strength around her. The village was quiet, the crickets humming their sleepy song. Luma closed her eyes, her feathers still glowing faintly. The journey had been long, but it wasn't about reaching a place. It was about the peace she found along the way. The river's song, the glowflower's hum, the tree's whispers, the star's melody, the crystal's chime, the bridge's whispers, the lake's waves, the daisy's dreams, the starfruit's light, the waterfall's song, the valley's echoes, they all stayed with her, singing her into sleep. She thought of the frog, the rabbit, the owl, the fox, the bat, the turtle, the heron, the mouse, the squirrel, the dragonfly, and the hawk, each one a friend she'd met on her journey, each one a part of the night's gentle story. And as Luma slept, the moonlight kept watch, its light soft and steady. The world was still, the night was kind, and everything was at peace. Luma's tiny heart beat slowly, her breaths deep and calm. She was home, but the journey lived on in her dreams, a gentle story of quiet places and soft lights, carrying her deeper into rest. The oak tree hummed softly, its own song blending with the night, and Luma felt completely safe, completely at peace, as she drifted into a deep, restful sleep.